Number 20. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon.
For those of you who don't know about Pokemon, you live at the center of the earth. There's no excuse. I mean, Pokemon is a media franchise owned by Nintendo, originally created by Satoshi Tajiri in 1996. Pokemon is also the second best-selling franchise throughout the world in terms of video games, only behind Nintendo's other superstar, Mario. Since its initial creation, it has expanded to include itself in anime, manga, video games, and even trading cards.
Well, it started out as video games, but yeah, even the trading cards are still going on strong these days.
I meant like other video games besides the main Pokemon games, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this one. In Pokemon's second generation, in the year 2000, Nintendo released the first game not to be a main Pokemon game. It was Pokemon the Trading Card game.
For the Game Boy.
Yep.
It was basically the trading card game in a game cartridge.
I can't say I ever found that interesting, but the next time they ventured into the game outside their norm, we got Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. At the start of the game, you answered a series of questions that then gave your most compatible Pokemon. From there, you get to choose a Pokemon partner, and also learn that your character is a human who is one day inexplicably turned into a Pokemon. With your partner, you set off to find a way to restore yourself to your human form. The game is more mission-based, with a lot of jobs, which can be found on the bulletin board, requested by mail, or initiated through story events, and include rescuing Pokemon, delivering items, or escorting clients. When you've done enough of these, your rank will improve, allowing you to do harder jobs in the future. For the gameplay, I turned to the one who actually beat the game. Unfortunately, my Game Boy Advance broke down around the time I was playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, so I never finished it. So, Rickard, take it away, please.
Okay, well, the gameplay of this game is, you ever played a roguelike? Yeah, that's about it. Of course, it had a certain Pokemon flavor, and of course, as it was the first game I've ever played that was a roguelike, not counting Digimon World 2, it was actually pretty fun, I have to admit. But yeah, I mean, up until that point, we had only had games like Pokemon Snap and other things, and Pokemon Stadium, which were not really adventure games in this line. And
they did kick ass, though.
They did kick ass, but I was actually rather amazed that they released a side game like this. It had all the original games had to offer with some new things, such as new items that could be used in the place of Pokemon attacks, and some weird, useful things called IQ skills, which were like almost kind of like abilities that were added to the main games during Gen 3, but not really, because you could get more of them than only the one ability that the Pokemon can usually get. And how you gain these IQ skills was by feeding a Pokemon with an appropriately flavored candy, because, you know, it had to be a flavor of a candy that type of Pokemon liked. That's called a gummy. Yes, magical candies are what's used to make your little monsters smarter, because, you know, you gain IQ skills as they increase in intelligence. I honestly have no idea why. I could never really figure out the moving mechanics, like how you moved in the game. Even with the later games in this series, I basically just had to use the touchscreen because, you know, and I pretty much left the directional buttons alone until I was walking around in the overworld sections.
Huh.
Unlike the original games, you had 8 places of movement, being able to go to the upper and lower lefts and rights.
Oh, so you had to deal with diagonals, too.
Yeah. And of course, being that this is a Pokemon game, there's, of course, going to be battle in it, unlike Pokemon Snap.
Right.
And as you'd expect from the main games, there is, of course, the usual paper, scissors, dynamite structure to the way Pokemon types work against each other.
Water over fire, fire over grass, grass over water.
Yeah. But the real meat of the game comes from the combat because, it's Pokemon. Of course you're going to be able to recruit the critters because, it's Pokemon. Only instead of like in the main games, you can't stuff them into a tiny little ball and then put them on your belt or stuff them in your computer.
After beating the ever-loving crap out of them.
Yeah. Instead, you just beat the ever-loving crap out of them and hope it gets impressed by your fighting prowess and asks to join you.
Ah.
So, if I remember right, even some bosses you can fight can be recruited in this way as well.
So, we're getting a general theme from Pokemon here. Beat the shit out of someone to make them your friend.
Of course, there was a multiplayer aspect that could do as well. If you got downed in a dungeon and you didn't want to have to, go back and lose all your progress, you could instead get a code that you could then give to somebody else so that they can come and rescue you.
Huh.
But it didn't really matter since no one I knew lived close enough for me for this to really matter, so...
Yeah, and to be fair, that's a much less impressive thing.
Admittedly, this game may have rated higher if it weren't for the fact it was a side game unimportant to the main storyline of Pokemon.
I mean, it's an interesting game, though, which is why we gave it a spot. Because, every game deserves a chance, right?
Yeah.
Number 19.
Kirby, Nightmare in Dreamland.
Developed by HAL Laboratory and published by Nintendo, this is a remake of the Kirby's Adventure game for the NES that was released in 2002. Well, the remake was released then, not the NES game.
Of course not.
It also includes the first appearance of popular Kirby character and Super Smash Bros. Contestant Meta Knight. Kirby hasn't seen much development over the years, despite inclusion in the Super Smash Bros. Series and a few games of his own, spaced out over a rather wide period of time. There was also an animated show that... Yeah, I might have to review that one day. Kirby is a pink fluff ball of... something. He also eats people.
Lots and lots of people. All the time.
That's about it. Oh, and I guess he looks cute. Anyway, Nightmare in Dreamland begins with Kirby going to investigate the Fountain of Dreams after waking from a nap where he didn't dream. He discovers that King Dedede has stolen the Star Rod and broken up the pieces because... Bowser Complex? So Kirby goes off to restore the Star Rod so the residents of Dreamland can dream again. For gameplay, I gotta turn to Rickard again because he's the one that actually played this game.
Even though I don't really remember it.
Alright, fine. Please say it anyway?
Yeah, okay. So, if you've played one Kirby game, you've probably played them all, except for Epic Yarn. I hear that's very different. My first Kirby game was actually the Nintendo 64 one.
Oh yeah, I played that one too.
Yeah.
That one was awesome, actually.
Yeah. Basically, though, you just go around, suck people up, eat them and gain their powers. If they had them, rinse and repeat until, you had the powers you needed for any situation.
Right, so you can get past certain challenge segments or boss fights, right?
Yeah. And honestly, while the game is fun, I didn't really commit it to memory because it wasn't really as memorable to me as Kirby 64. Yeah. This doesn't make it bad. I just wish it was a little bit more memorable.
Either that or Kirby stole your cake too many times for you to care about him.
Don't you dare talk about that!
Hi!
Damn it, Kirby!
All in all, Kirby's a fun little ROM for people who enjoy platforms and, you know, generally just a light, fluffy game. And,
Or maybe you're a cannibal.
yeah, that's just creepy. You know, in retrospect, considering we don't remember it as much, I'm surprised I have it at number 19 now, but oh well.
Oh well.
Retrospect always makes you question yourself, am I right?
Yep.